When Jesus walked the earth, on 2 separate occasions, there were multitudes following him, and the people were hungry. On each occasion, he took a little bit of bread, a little bit of fish, prayed over it, distributed it to the crowd, and as we know from the scripture stories, there was baskets and baskets of food left over. This was truly a miracle of giant proportions. But it's not a miracle that was limited to just that time. It happens today, too. Our next story demonstrates that.
We'd been studying the Bible where Jesus said, when you give a lunch or dinner, don't invite your rich friends, your neighbors, or your relatives. Invite those people that can never invite you back, the poor, the crippled, the blind, the lame, and your Father in heaven will reward you. So I said, well, I've never done that strictly and literally. We fed a lot of people for a long time, but we've never done it just that way, so let's do it on Christmas. And so I said, I'm going to do it on Christmas. If anybody wants to come on.
Ladies made burritos, tamales, sack bags of Christmas candy, cookies and oranges and stuff. Christmas Day, we meet in front of Our Lady Youth Center, all of these trucks and cars and people, and they bring all of his food. Some ladies brought some cake, and they had made cakes, and I brought 25 bologna sandwiches. That's 2 loaves of bread. That makes exactly 25 sandwiches. A lady had brought a ham, a big ham. We load all our vans up, our trucks and everything, and then we cross the border.
To my surprise, they were all working in the garbage, and they had no idea it was Christmas. To them, every day was the same. They didn't know there was no Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, or holidays. Every day was the same, Christmas included, and they try to eke out a living grubbing through the garbage.
I've been in war. I was in the Korean War, and I've seen things, you know, but this shocked me. This was really shocking.
The condition of the people was terrible. We found out later that every single man, woman, and child on the dump had tuberculosis.
Father Thomas was accustomed to estimating the amount of food needed to feed a large crowd, but the turnout that day was more than 3 times what he had expected.
I had thought there'd be 120 there. There were a lot more. We said we don't have enough food, but we'll share what we got.
They'd broken out this big ham, and they'd put it on the tailgate of my truck, and this lady starts to cut the ham. She's cutting and cutting and cutting ham, giving out pieces. And I see everybody walking around with a burrito, a tamale, a sandwich, or a piece of ham in their hand, having a good time, just having a wonderful time.
After a while, this young man came to me with a big slice of ham in his hand, and he said, have some ham. And I said, no, there's not enough. He said, yeah, there is. And so I said, there can't be. He said, well, look, and I looked around, there was people had a big slice of ham in their hands about as big as a, half inch of ham. Well, that didn't register.
And I'm looking around, seeing all of these wonderful things happening. At the side of my pickup on the ground, this lady was giving out these little Christmas bags of candy to the kids. They'd get a bag and they'd run out and they'd put it in a box and a paper sack, and then they'd get back in line. Well, I figured for sure we're going to run out of candy, and I hollered down to Jean. I said, Jean, we're going to run out of candy. Look what they're doing. Well, she couldn't control it. She just shrugged her shoulders.
I was taking pictures of children, boys, with sacks of food, and they would come and fill their sacks up, take them home, empty the sacks, come back for another sack of food. Well, it took several hours for all this to penetrate my minds, and as everybody began to share.
Father Thomas stopped keeping count when the crowd that came for the Christmas meal, originally planned to feed 120, surpassed 400 people.
It didn't occur to us until after we had come back, of the miracle that had happened, because we knew what we had taken across, and we knew what we had given. We saw with our own eyes all the people that were there, and we saw what was left over after everybody had gone home, where you even had enough to go take down to the orphanage. That was truly a wonderful, wonderful thing.
We stopped on the way back to El Paso at an orphanage in Juarez and left the food there. I found out a long time later that a person from Juarez had food left over, and they had stopped at another orphanage to leave the food that was left over. And this really got our attention, and we said, well, if God multiplied that food, that's a sign that we have to go back and help those people. And so that was the beginning of a ministry at the garbage dump that's gone on even to this day.
We'll be right back with the story of ongoing miracles at the Lord's Ranch in just a moment.
Yeah, over there, that's a cutaway of what they're all living on top of. That's what the garbage, the old garbage, it's been there for years, and they just built on top of the garbage. They haven't got any running water, but they have barrels here. If you can see all of these homes right here, and off in the distance, way in the distance, you see the United States of America. 30 minutes from right here to the wealthiest nation in the world, and you have all of this.
Frank Alarcon was so touched by what he saw happen that day that he took it as a sign to stay in Juarez and help the people there.
That evening when I went home, that I went in my room and I closed the door, and on my knees I begged God for a job with tears in my eyes. I was so in love that evening. I was so in love.
He left behind a comfortable retirement in the U.S. and organized a daycare, a doctor's and dentist office, and other services.
That's the pharmacy room. We charge 10 pesos a visit, and we give them the medicines if we have them. If we don't, then the doctor will make out a prescription for them to buy. If they have the money, fine. If they don't, then we'll buy it for them. And the same way with the dentist. If they have the money, if they don't, they still get treated. A little white building, all the cars on top. I have a little room in back of there.
He now lives in a one-room dwelling with a single light bulb and a mattress on a dirt floor.
Super room. This is where we celebrated Christmas 1972, right here. And it was just a beautiful, wonderful day. I thank God for that Christmas. It changed my life. I can't take any credit for anything. I dare not take credit for anything because I'm not capable of those things. These are just wonders that God has done.
When our film crew went out to investigate these stories at the Lord's Ranch, they were greeted by something quite unexpected.
We just arrived here, and I told our cameraman that we needed to shoot a dark sky because when we get home, I'm planning to superimpose a rainbow for an effect. And not 30 seconds later, we turned and saw this most beautiful double rainbow I've ever seen in my life.
This is a sign that the Lord has given you to show you what He does here. That He performs miracles here, and this is His sign for you. That rainbow, made to order.
We'll be right back with more miracles, angels, and afterlife. A miracle is something that appears to be unexplainable by the laws of nature, and so is thought to be supernatural in origin or an act of God. The stories we just heard speak of life-changing events and phenomenal experiences that appear to be unexplainable by the laws of nature. For the people who live them, they are quite simply their own personal stories of miracles,